Welcome to this conversation brought to you by White House Custom Color. I'm Jed Toffer, and today I'm speaking with Nate Peterson of NP Design Photography here in New Richmond, Wisconsin, actually in his living room, which is right below your studio, yes?
Yes, Jed. Good morning.
Hello. So we're in your house.
If you call it that, yeah. It's a
I call it a house. It's very nice.
yeah. It's a commercial building in downtown New Richmond, and
Right.
there's a lower level that's half underground, and it's like 10-foot ceilings, and we converted it into our home. So
What was it before?
it was the newspaper for the city, or the town's newspaper, and then it was a print shop for 20 years.
That's ironic a little bit, isn't it? Kind of.
Yeah, and the beautiful part of the story is I started working at that print shop in 7th grade because my dad owned it. So
Even better.
yeah, I have a lot of history with this building, and
No doubt. So you've converted the bottom part of the bottom part of the bottom part of the building into your living space.
yes,
Very nicely appointed,
thank
if
you.
I may say. And then your studio primarily is the top floor.
Yeah, it's 2,500 square foot per level,
Mm-hmm.
and we have our studio. The full thing is upstairs, and then about half of the downstairs we own a frame shop that we moved in here a few years ago, and then the last phase was moving our home here. We used to have a pretty nice house a couple miles south of town out in the country, and
Mm-hmm.
big yard. And when we got into photography full-time, time started to disappear. So mowing a 2-acre yard and
Oh, right.
taking advantage of all the extra stuff houses have got not worth it. So we downsized.
I was just going to refer to that because we're essentially in the process of doing something very similar ourselves, like moving back into this 7,000 square foot commercial building or into a portion of it. And I was going to say, what are the disadvantages of what you've done? The disadvantages.
None of what you think. A lot of people said, oh, you're going to have clients knocking on your door on
Right.
Sunday morning at 9 a.m. We've been here 3 years and it's never happened. So
They don't want to be knocking on anybody's door at 9 a.m. on a
No.
Sunday morning either.
yeah. If I said the only thing is just a little bit, I mean, New Richmond is it's only 10,000 people and a suburb of the Twin Cities, Minneapolis.
Mhm.
But privacy and security just are a little heightened versus living out in the country. It's,
Oh, right. The privacy piece for sure.
yeah.
Right.
My brother just bought a very nice home, big palatial estate, and all of a sudden we feel like, and we live in this basically an apartment in
Yeah.
our studio, but it just isn't traditional. But every now and then you just got to step back and appreciate
Right.
it's us. It's just it fits us perfect. So
Right, and to a degree, we're also talking about first world problems to
Yeah.
begin with, aren't we?
exactly, yeah.
So I also wanted to throw this in there a little bit because I'm extremely jealous of you and your wife. You were able to do something last night that I really wanted to do, and so you guys got to go see the opening for the Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. And it's interesting. I come over here and I find that out, and that you actually got done watching it at 2 a.m.
Yes.
and I'm thinking to myself, I really wanted to see it last night. I get to go tonight, but I'm super jealous, and that at the same time we can't talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sworn to secrecy. No spoilers.
I can't go online. I can't read any news. I can't go on any social media today because I know I'm going to see something that's going to spoil it for me.
That was literally the argument. We were driving home last night from a meeting in the cities, and I said, Teresa, I'm only going to ask you once, but can we please just go see it? It's 15 minutes away. It's playing, and I said, we need to go see it so I don't have to be living in a box tomorrow.
You don't have to be a hermit.
Yeah.
You have a wonderful wife to say yes at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, the show was at 11:15, an hour away from home. So
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
yeah, it was honestly, it was a Hail Mary throwing it out there. I thought, no way is this going to happen.
Yeah, you didn't have very high expectations.
Yeah. And she said, really, Nate? And I said, you're saying there's a glimmer? There's a hope?
You're
of
saying there's a
just-"
chance.
Yeah. So Yeah. Then, of course, she posted on Facebook the things I do for love and checked
well,
in there. But
and she's right. I'd say that would fit squarely in there.
yeah.
Because I promise you, I could tell you what Vicky would say. I wouldn't even ask.
20 minutes into the movie, I leaned over to her and I said, "You're secretly happy we're here." And she goes, "Yeah." So.
Oh man, that's fantastic. Good for you guys. Well, all right, we will pivot from that because I don't even want to know. I don't even want to take a chance. So today what we are setting out to talk about specifically with you guys is the grand experience. That's right?
That is what we call it. Yeah.
That's what you guys call essentially what you offer to your clients.
Yes.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, primarily high school seniors. That's my studio's specialty.
Mm-hmm.
And it started off, I wanted to tell a story
Mm-hmm.
for every senior. And you can get senior pictures everywhere, so we had to find that point of difference that everybody talks about. What's our unique selling proposition,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So, and it also comes as, I guess, being an artist where if I'm going to go out and spend 3 hours with somebody and create 60 to 100 polished images for them,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want 8 of them going in a folio that they are going to keep. I want the majority to go there. So we look at it as an all-inclusive type package from the beginning. So I inspired by the wedding industry, all the
Mhm.
successful wedding photographers I know, they basically include an album with the wedding photography experience.
That's just part of it.
Yeah.
It's like that's an assumed piece of the whole pie.
Exactly. So there is no option to not get the album. So therefore your price point starts higher. The work you're doing, you're shooting for that album, so you're going to tell some detail shots and storytelling shots.
So you're in that mindset from the get-go.
Exactly.
And so is your client. Like
Right.
everybody's on the same page.
Yep. It also qualifies the client that wants what you do. It isn't. I'm not selling a $59 session and then
Right.
hoping to stretch them
Right.
to $1,000 or
Right.
something. It starts at the grand experience is $1,000. The grand that's where the name comes
Oh,
from.
the grand.
Is
Oh, I didn't even get that.
yeah. So basically, what it is $1,000 is a 3-hour session,
Okay.
hair and makeup, and an 8-inch album included. So
How many pages or spreads?
there are 10 spreads and then a cover page and a exit page and the cover and the back cover. So 24 full-size images minimum, and that's our base pack. That's our entry-level book.
Right.
And to date, not one person has bought that. So everybody goes to what we call the signature album,
Okay.
which is a more custom designed book with 3 to 5 images per spread.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a small upgrade for that. So right off the bat, they're at 1,000, and then there's upgrades, and then that also, most of those people then go wall art and gift prints on top of that. So
is that considered the session fee essentially?
and
how does that work?
It's all kind of the same bundle. So originally I had a session fee, and then I had the albums and all the products. And the way the grand experience started was we would say we do everything in-person pre-consult
Mhm.
meetings. And I would say, we can do your session and then you can come and buy whatever you want. Pretty traditional.
Right.
Then we had this offering, if you commit to me up front that you're going to get an album with this, we're going to bundle the whole thing together. So
Mhm.
they were getting like $1,300 and some dollars for $1,000. So
Okay.
people caught on to it really quick.
Right.
And then what happened was the 10 to 20% that didn't do that, it felt really weird because now you're back to that selling 8 images.
Right.
So in the year or two later, we started just saying, this is all we do.
Right. I mean, at some point you kind of discover, correct me if I'm wrong, that, we can kind of make it the way we want to make it on our end.
Exactly. Yeah. When you build your reputation and with me, confidence-wise, I just needed to see those 80 to 85%
Mhm.
of my clients extremely happy with what I do.
Right.
It erased all the doubt in my mind that this was going to work, because it really felt awkward when the people didn't do it. And if that's what you want to do, then you just shape it into what you want, and it works for both people. So I know full well that my clients are walking away with a an heirloom that I hope they show their grandkids someday.
So you were very intentional at creating, or basically setting up the way this was going to work. At some point, you were like, yeah, this is how we're going to do it.
Yes. Sustainable business, I think, is something that more studios need to talk about. It's fun. This is an addiction, getting into photography, and it's really fun to go out there and create great images. But when you leave your full-time job behind and things like that, and then when your wife leaves her full-time job behind, you need to know that tomorrow you're going to make the next buck to keep this whole machine moving.
Give us a little bit of backstory then to firm that up, because I know that about you guys, but how did all that happen for you guys?
So I was a enthusiast, like many people that have entered the business. Mm-hmm. I come from a Apple Mac techie background. Mm-hmm. I was a IT director of technology for a large printing company, and the printing industry has kind of gone through when 9/11 happened, the advertising industry dropped out, and magazines, if you have like a 2000 issue of some great magazine, it's really nice, and if you have a 2002 issue of that same magazine, it's like a little rag. And therefore all the money in between that disappeared, and
really? Okay.
and printing went way down.
Right.
Essentially, I think it was like a $25 million company when I started, and it's hovering in the $10 million company range now. Yeah. So that is a major cut. And that's publication printing, which is going to be a lot different than some. Then what happened was, it was a kind of an old school mentality, and they started saying, rather than lay off the ineffective parts of the business and improve technology and get into web-based printing and adopt all the technology I was begging them to adopt, it was we'd all take pay cuts, and then we'd all take hours cuts. And so it was over time. Essentially, I was down 10% in wage, then 10% more in hours, then 10% more in wage, and 10% more in hours. Yeah. And I had this enthusiast level dream of doing photography and graphic design and things like that. And this, I look at it as the universe, or whatever you want to call it, saying, here's your window. We're going to ease you into it. It wasn't it wasn't quitting a big job and jumping into a studio.
Right.
It was a nice little
smoother
bridge
transition.
Yeah, exactly. So
Sweet.
That's basically what happened. I had a friend who owned a building, said, we need to get you going on this. So he leased me some space really cheap, kind of some great opportunities. I mentioned my dad owned this building, and a print shop inside of it. He sold the business to somebody else, and she ended up moving on, and the building sat here. So all in the span of 2 years, I was losing my full-time job, or it was disintegrating. My dad's building opened up, and he was in a tough bind. So it's like, all right, mission born. I need to build my business, take over that building, and save my dad from financial collapse.
Everybody's happy.
Yeah. So that's quite motivating. Yeah. And with people like you guys and all the different photography networks and training aids and things like that, it was a pretty quick, we call it just the crash course in traveling the country, learning from all the best people and climbing to a sustainable business all in a couple of years. And
then your wife Teresa left her job at some point too.
Yeah, if you know, we can thank Julie Klassmeyer for this. Yeah. We were at After Dark one year, and Julie was talking about, her words were something like, she got so busy that her husband had to leave his full-time job, and Teresa heard that, locked onto that, and she helped me on the side of working full-time career, and all with the dream, once we sell our house, once we move into the studio, we're downsizing to the point that she won't need her career either.
Right.
I was scared of that, to be honest. There were many late nights of discussions and
Is it
financial.
Putting your eggs into one basket piece?
That's a big part of it.
Makes you nervous.
The healthcare costs, benefits, things like that. But since she came aboard, she's actually, I have a whole new appreciation that employees and staff growth is not an expense. It's really an investment, and
Okay.
we're in a position I never could have put us in without her. So
Right.
it's all turning out to be okay.
That's great, and it's really what you want to hear.
Yeah.
So to pivot back to what you guys have developed then in your business as you've grown it, and as it's evolved, and you've developed this grand experience. You've kind of based it on what you saw wedding photographers doing with seniors specifically. How from in the sales appointment, you said that not a lot of them get, or maybe nobody gets the bottom package for the $1,000. How do you upsell? What are the techniques that you use to get them to that next level?
Well, I think it starts before the sales room.
Mm-hmm.
The pre-consult is in the sales room to
Mhm.
begin with. We invite them in. We have them, any client that calls, the first step is booking your pre-consult. We need you to come in and see everything. We do volume sports photography too for many of the high schools around here. And to put it into one guy's expression, we had a coach of a very big football team come in, and it was kind of pulling teeth to get him to come in.
Yeah.
He walked through the door and he goes, "Nate, I have to apologize to you. I didn't know you were this." And he just kind of
Nice.
opened his arms and looked around. And that's the impression. When we built our studio, you talk about intention. I want somebody, I think Kevin Jordan or somebody told me, you want somebody to walk into your studio, take a deep breath, say, "Oh boy, this is going to be expensive." But then in the next thought say, "But it's going to be worth it."
Yeah.
And that's what we try and do. We want somebody to come in, getting them in, sitting them down, showing them what most people do and why they want this, and what kind of setting up that expectation of this is what we do for our clients. I think they're hooked at that point.
So is the hardest part then initially getting them in?
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to be ready to hear no a lot.
At first.
At first, yes. Most of our marketing is word of mouth from
Mhm.
clients who have already done this. People say, "Andy was here last week. I want to be here now. I saw what you did."
Mm-hmm.
That's so people have to get it, because if you're just calling and asking for prices, I'm not gonna win in the price war.
Right. Of course. Right. And that weeds somebody out anyway.
A lot, yeah.
Sure.
But I've heard another lesson is if everybody's saying yes, you're too cheap.
That's also a problem. Right.
So
right.
you have to find that point of sustainability where it makes everybody happy. You can't price yourself out of the market. I still believe that, but there is a happy medium in there to find that balance. And I would say 50% of the calls that we get, basically we get a click.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's good to know. Because I think a lot of people would just even consider that statistic and think that's just terrifying, that I'm going to hear no half the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you also, I mean, the self-conscious scare inside of me is when you hear rumors that I'm $10,000 for a senior. It hasn't happened once. So how that rumor gets out there.
Yeah.
And then when you want to curl up in a ball and cry and just do what everybody seems to be doing and give everything away,
Right.
you have to think, no, time out, because what I'm giving is they're getting a custom designed hardcover album with 40 plus images in it. They're getting all of our wall art is ready to hang. So I mentioned we bought the frame shop in town, so I have access to framing. So they have their choice of a framed portrait, a canvas gallery wrap, or a metal print, all at the same size for the same price. So they don't have the option to buy just the frame ready print. I want to be the full service solution for them.
Right.
So they come in knowing that. It sounds to the naysayer, they might say, "Yeah, but I don't want to spend that much and have it framed. I just want the print." And in all honesty,
How do you handle that?
No, you don't. You don't want that, because now you're going to have to deal with that.
Okay. That's what you say.
Yeah.
You spin it so that you don't even have to really spin it, but you present it as this is going to be a problem.
It's the same as digital files
Right.
these days. What do you want those for? To put on? I answer it for them. You want them for social media,
Right.
which we're happy to provide that to you because
Right.
they've already done the upfront grand experience where they're getting all these images. We might as well make some low resolution Facebook images. That's more marketing.
What does low resolution mean? Can you be specific?
Screen resolution, not for printing.
And how many pixels?
I do 1080p tall on the height thing at 72. So it PPI. So it looks good on Facebook. It has a small logo on the front. It's not, and we say this is for digital only. So it's on your phone, on your Facebook, you can make a slideshow if you want.
So like it fits in 1080 squared. So it's basically like Instagram. That's an Instagram size.
Yeah, and not square shape, just the vertical.
Whatever the vertical is 1080.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it fits a TV screen, the
Oh yeah,
typical
for
TV.
television.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just where I come up with that, but they sign an agreement that they're not going to take it to print it. And by that time, it's not an issue, and that's really
because that's on the other side of the grand experience, essentially the sales process of that.
Yeah.
And so go back to, let's cover again what are the techniques or the things that you guys do to encourage an upsell from the base package that nobody gets?
Well, we start off. I think I'm talking about the spreads of the album as I'm shooting.
Mm-hmm.
These 4 images are going to look great together.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot a detail shot with something. If it's a hockey player, let's say it's hockey season right now, so we'll be over at the rink and having him lace up his skates, taping his stick, sitting in his locker bin, and then heading out the door to the rink. That could be like 4 shots that make up a spread, and that laced up shot will just have maybe the edge of his face, kind of a profile.
Sure.
Almost anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't get that. That's not your traditional, I can see both eyes smiling at the camera shot.
Right.
But in an album spread, it tells the story.
Right.
A lot like a ring shot with
At a wedding.
Sure. Yeah. So when you're designing those pieces, they get addicted to that story as well. And when you're talking the base album would have 1 picture per page, very traditional.
Okay.
And it's just, it would be the shot of him looking and then the shot of him walking out the door maybe, but you lose those other 2 shots.
So that upsell is quite an upgrade. I mean, essentially they're getting a lot more.
Yeah, you're going from a 24 image book. This is what in client speak, this is what they hear. They're going from 24 images to 40 plus.
Mm-hmm.
So it generally is 40 to 50. So you're doubling your images for $200.
That's really good to know. It sounds great too from the other side. Also, I've noticed it seems as though you're pre-selling as you go through the process. So you have the consultation way beforehand. You're talking about things and communicating there. You're pre-selling there. And then even during the session itself, you're having those conversations and you're saying different things to also effectively be pre-selling too.
Yeah, countless times. And countless times I've said the words, oh, there's your canvas. Like literally
Right.
just plant the seed at that point. And most of the time if you have your clients respect from the beginning, they're wondering what would you do. And so when I see that image, whether it be in the session I catch that moment or in the order appointment, it's just, here's what that thing is going to look so good.
Right.
I would even do a metal print of that. I know you guys are pretty traditional, but that thing would shine as a metal print. That would just look cool with the car in it or whatever it is.
So you're just planting seeds.
I am,
seeds.
but it sounds salesman-y, but
Right.
it's 100% authentic. It's
Right.
literally what I would do.
Right.
So
Right.
it's not, I always laugh with them and I say, I'll cut myself off and say, God, I sound like a salesman right now. I'm not the kid at Best Buy that says I have that TV at home. That's literally what I would do.
That's what you would do. So it's legit. It's authentic. You're
Yes.
not pulling anybody's leg.
Yeah. And that brings up the point that I do my own sales appointments, which is,
Okay.
I take some bashing on that from mentors and everything that you gotta get some of the pieces out from my to-do list. And I do. A lot of the major editing, the book designs, things like that are all outsourced to employees or
Somebody
companies.
else, right.
But the sale is, to me, that's the That's closing the deal. That's to me the time you see all the gratitude. Like, you just get to sit and watch them enjoy everything and give them your advice for that final stroke, which really is the sustainability.
Well, there's that. Yeah, there's that. Yeah, I like how you circled back to the sustainability piece, because I think for sure it must be extremely gratifying for an artist to go through that part of the process with their clients, right? Because that's when they're seeing everything. That's when they're experiencing that piece of it, and you get to be there.
Yep.
And help them navigate through it, for one. But also, I would think, and you know, you've received some bashing from mentors and whatnot, but my philosophy, I would think, is if you're good at that, why not be a part of it or conduct it yourself? Because you can do everything else just right. You can provide a fantastic session and phenomenal images, and if the sale doesn't happen or doesn't work or doesn't go well, from a business perspective, it's all for naught.
I think that's exactly right.
Okay. I nailed it.
the thing I'm told, or the other side of the opinion, and that's where I argue sustainability first and everything else second, is they say, well, yeah, but if my sales appointments are between 3:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So that's family time, that's dinner time.
Right.
That's sweet light. There's a lot of things that could be argued you shouldn't be in there, but we accommodate that order appointment time in schedules, because I can get a family to take the day off of work for a session for this grand experience. I totally encourage parents to come along, because we're creating a memory that day.
Right.
Getting them to take a day off of work to come in and order
is different.
That might put them, in my mind, that puts them in all right, we got to hurry up. I got to get back to work. They're already in a negative state.
Right.
Versus if I can accommodate your evening,
right,
and you guys get some dinner and come in and get ready for the show, they're in a much better state to.
That's a really good point. You want them to come in and certainly don't feel like they have to rush out to go anywhere.
This is not a task. This is a moment. This is going to see the Jedi movie.
That's a good that hits home for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to rush.
Exactly.
Interesting. So then after the sale, like after you're through with all of that piece and you've made the upsell with an album, then how does it work to kind of guide people into other products?
So we use Pro Select and I have a big 10-foot projection screen and projector in a nice, comfortable room. And the first step is showing them an Animoto slideshow. Mm-hmm. Let them take it all in. It's all custom mixed. Teresa puts together an awesome slideshow every time and always finds the right song. Mm-hmm. So we watch that. We roll back the tears when that's over, and we start narrowing down. And we'll narrow down. Typical senior session are 80 proofs, let's say. And we pre-touch everything, so get rid of anything like acne and things like that I don't want them to think about that stuff. So knowing we're going to use, that's another mentor basher thing, is that we do pre-touch our images.
Manually.
Yeah,
I would bash you for that.
So there's
but at the same time, it goes back to, if it works for you.
If I've got my grand experience investment up front, I know I'm going to use 40 of these.
Right.
So cleaning up the other half, not a big deal.
That's a big point to make.
If I did a $150 session or whatever it be, then you're doing a lot of work for nothing to sell 8 images.
Excellent point.
I will argue all day long that it's worth it, because I think, I went through we mentioned the shirk on the wall here. Mm-hmm. I went through the experience of being photographed by a professional on the other side of my coin, where he showed me raw images and said, this is going to turn out cool in the end.
Right.
And I trusted him. Obviously, if you see his work, it's amazing.
Doesn't take much to trust Ben Shirk.
But it's, the way I look at it is, not all my clients can even visualize what black and white looks like.
Sure.
So maybe they can't envision that image without the lights being pre-cut out or whatever's going on in the image. We clean them up pretty good. Mm-hmm. We add some effects just to show on a few images. We'll pick some artist favorite ones and do some Photoshop splatters and stuff. But that gets them excited. It keeps them moving forward rather than having that doubt of what is that going to look like? Is it going to be worth it? Things like that. We'll just
and that
show you.
alone helps you guide them into other products or wall portraits. Or
Yeah.
groupings.
So once we narrow down to the favorite images, and we try and aim for 40.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it'll be a little more. You can always increase the spreads of your album as an upgrade.
Of course.
Most do. Our most popular album is they upgrade to a 10-inch for an additional $300.
Mm-hmm.
The signature at a 10-inch drops to $100. That's a little confusing, but we can explain that some other time. And then they typically go up to 12 spreads. So that's $300 plus $100 plus $200 is $600 in upgrades right off the bat from that $1,000 experience.
Right.
From there, we move on to my order form is a paper order form with a pen, old school.
Yeah.
I call it organic, so it's very trustworthy with them. The next column on that says wall art, and I just move into assuming, what do you want for your wall art?
Right.
And they get a discount if they send me in room photos we have a ruler they can tape to the wall to scale, pro-select. The room view is worth buying the program itself.
Right.
So they send that in and they receive a discount on their order just for doing that. Now let's show you reality of what this is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
The next part is any custom collages. And again, everything comes finished. So the numbers that they're seeing, some studios, just the print is as much as we sell the whole thing for.
Right.
We're in a smaller market, so it's appropriate, but the key is it's priced to be sustainable.
Right. It works for you guys.
Yeah. And then the last piece is the gift prints. Your 4x6, 5x7, 8x10.
Right.
We do a nice mounted print for everything, so you're not shaking a flimsy print. And then wallets, and then finally they pick their yearbook image. So that's included. So we just go right down this whole process, and it's the whole thing is setting up the expectation.
Right.
That's how you do it.
Right. And the last thing I wanted to go over, because you mentioned it earlier too, was that this has started out for seniors, but you're wanting to expand it into the other areas of your portraiture. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, we had somebody, the very first thing that triggered this was we had a girl who won a national fitness competition there. Mm-hmm. So she wanted some sculpt. She's at her peak health and look, and wanted to capture that.
Right.
And I thought she's going to want all these different outfits. I saw myself going down the road of we're going to create 60 images for her.
Right.
And what are we going to do with them? Mm-hmm. So I said, well, you could do a session and then whatever you want. I don't know many people that'll buy a large, nice piece of wall art in a gym outfit or a show bikini or something like that. So you're going to want a book of this to commemorate this. And I said, I'll offer you the same option we offer seniors. That has spread to families. Why, again, let's tell your whole family story. You can imagine with little kids and stuff, I'm sure Vicky does, like my first year.
Yes.
So commit to the album up front. You'll save some money on doing the whole thing. And then that way, your session has purpose.
So then do you incorporate like the detail type shots and the photojournalistic type stuff of the session itself? Like, oh, the kids are running off in the yard. And so you get some of that too?
Truthfully told, the photojournalism side isn't really my specialty, but you certainly could do those non-formals. Yeah. What it does more for me is it does all the breakdowns. And I do a lot of staged, posed, things like that, but it does allow the behind-the-scenes breakdowns, like just start laughing. And so it may not be running across the yard, but it is when the pose goes wrong.
Sure.
You can have like everybody just bust out laughing or squeeze together, things like that. And you see that candidness. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it allows, you can have the nice formal on one side of the page and then a four up of the breakdown afterward on the other side.
I think I see the possibility of a solid transition from one to the other. You know, it sounds very intriguing. I'm interested to see how that goes.
Yeah. I think it'll be well received. The whole thing is I've started to ask everybody in the pre-consult is, what do you want to get out of this? And I ask myself that, why are we creating these?
Okay.
And when you get so deep into the grand experience with seniors, you can't help but want to just have everybody do that same thing.
Right, right.
I mean, both for studio sustainability and just for the reward of giving those images that
Well, and
purpose.
it works so well on both ends.
It does, yeah.
Right. I love it. The grand experience. I think it's fantastic. Well, I tell you what, thank you for allowing me to come into your home and have this conversation with you.
It was my pleasure, Jed. It's always good to have you over here.
I really appreciate it. Now we need to go get some lunch.
I like that idea.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You bet. Thanks.